Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a science-backed toolkit designed to help you transition from being, well, kind of a hostage to your own brain to actually becoming the master of your focus and your actions. Look, if you've ever felt completely paralyzed by your own mind, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down exactly how your brain is tricking you, and more importantly, we'll look at some highly effective structured ways to finally break free. We've absolutely all been there, haven't we? Lying in bed at night, just staring up at the ceiling, letting our brains totally torture us with worst-case scenarios. It's this gripping fear of scarcity, you know? That deep fear that there just won't be enough, or that something terrible is lurking right around the corner. And your body literally reacts like it needs to get up and harvest corn for the winter. It starts pumping you full of cortisol and adrenaline, when in reality, you're just safely tucked under a blanket. All right, part 1, mutated problem solving. Let's dive right in and understand exactly why our brains obsess over fear and worry in the first place. Because, to fix the machine, we first have to fully understand why it's malfunctioning. To start, we really need to draw a hard, definitive line between two very different mental states. Good, healthy problem solving is intentional. You deliberately choose to do it. It's focused entirely on your locus of control, the things you can actually change, and it's highly action-oriented. But worry? Worry is a mutated, corrupted form of problem solving. It just spreads into every area of your life, totally paralyzing you. I mean, think about it. How much time do you spend worrying about a meeting that hasn't even been scheduled yet? Mutated worry almost exclusively focuses on things you have absolutely zero control over. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth does our brain do this to us? Well, it comes down to this wild concept called sneaky, magical thinking. Your brain secretly believes that worrying about a disaster, like, say, a loved one getting into a car crash, is the exact thing that actually prevents the crash from happening. It is an absolutely absurd and faulty survival mechanism. Subconsciously, when the bad thing doesn't happen, your brain actually pats itself on the back and goes, "See? The worry worked. Good job, us." And it just keeps you hopelessly trapped in that passive, exhausting loop. Which brings us to part 2. You are not your thoughts. This faulty survival mechanism leads directly to the maddening trap of rumination and obsessive loops. It's that suffocating feeling where every waking moment is consumed by a thought you don't even want to be having. So the absolutely crucial point here is that you must rigorously practice what's called cognitive diffusion. The ultimate paradigm shift you need to make is realizing, and I mean really internalizing, that you have zero control over your thoughts. None. They are completely random. When a dark, anxious, or just plain weird thought suddenly pops into your head, it has absolutely no reflection on who you actually are as a person. It's just your brain, which scientists often compare to an automatic word generator, blindly spitting out data based on thousands of random stimuli. I want you to imagine for a second that you're just sitting on a park bench eating popcorn, calmly watching your thoughts walk by like strangers in a park. You wouldn't jump up and tackle a stranger just because they walked past your bench, right? Of course not. You just watch them go by. When an intrusive thought happens, you don't need to research it, validate it, or fight it. Just mentally say to yourself, there it goes. They're just thoughts. It's got nothing to do with me. Your actions define you, not the random, unpredictable misfires of an anxious brain. Okay, part 3, physical hacks for panic. Let's move into physical reality here and see how to open some immediate physiological escape hatches when that panic actually sets in. Because sometimes the anxiety is just so loud, you simply can't think your way out of a thinking problem. You have to use your physical body. When your fight or flight sympathetic nervous system is just totally overwhelming you, you can intentionally trigger your calming parasympathetic nervous system by grounding yourself in your senses. It's called the 3-3-3 rule. Simply touch 3 things and genuinely describe how they feel, like a cold, smooth desk. Then consciously see and describe 3 things around you. Finally, listen for 3 distinct sounds. Why does this work? Because engaging sensory input actively hijacks your brain's processing power away from your amygdala, the fear center, forcing your brain to recognize that your present physical environment is actually totally safe. Now, this next one is super fascinating. It's an incredible technique derived from EMDR therapy. If you want a fast, immediate break from overthinking and anxiety, just pick a physical spot on the wall and keep your eyeballs perfectly still. Lock them in. Here's the science. Your brain actually requires micro eye movements to deeply process thoughts and recall emotional memories. So if you physically stop your eyes from darting around, your brain literally cannot execute the obsessive thought loops it's used to doing. It is a brilliant, instant physical hack. And that brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of another physical hack, simply going for a walk. A low-intensity 20-minute walk flushes out trapped adrenaline and noticeably lowers your cortisol, gently shifting you right out of that stressed survival mode. But it goes so much deeper than just calming down. Walking actually builds and enhances the energy-producing mitochondria in your cells, improves the balance of oxygen and CO2 in your tissues, and creates enough physical space between you and your problems so your brain can actually be creative again. Never ever underestimate a good, boring walk.
Moving on to part 4, the scheduled worry technique. Once you've calmed your physical body, you really need to build a structured track for your runaway train of psychological anxiety. Because, as any overthinker knows, trying to just stop a speeding train is completely impossible.
So instead of trying to stop the worry, we're going to proactively schedule it. Pick a tight window, say 15 to 30 minutes, at the exact same time and place every single day. And please, definitely not in your bed. Sit down with a pen and paper and purposefully write out all your anxieties. Let the spiral happen openly on the page. But the second the timer goes off, you are decisively done. You leave the paper right there, you stand up, and you walk away, effectively putting your anxiety in a psychological container. Now, what happens when an intrusive thought inevitably pops up outside of that strict 15-minute window? You don't fight it, and you certainly don't give in to it. You simply acknowledge it and defer it. You literally say in your head, in a friendly tone, "Oh, hey there, worry. Thanks for letting me know. We'll talk about that at 6 p.m. And then you actively redirect your focus back to your present values, whether that's crushing your work, playing with your kids, or just enjoying a conversation. You expertly contain the worry to its scheduled track. Finally, part 5, stop thinking, start doing. Let's see how all of this builds into our final phase. Once you've successfully set physical and psychological boundaries on your anxiety, you have to push through the lingering paralysis and take actual forward action. Paralysis by analysis isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a scientifically documented reality. Did you know that a fascinating study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology actually showed that simply cutting down on planning time increases productivity by a massive 60%? That is huge. The cold, hard truth is that the more time you spend perpetually overthinking your to-do list or dreading a specific task, the more likely you are to endlessly procrastinate. So how do we actually hack a brain that's addicted to easy dopamine and paralyzed by chronic overthinking? First, you embrace complete, utter boredom for 15 minutes a day. No phone, no music, no podcasts, nothing. Why? Because this powerfully resets your dopamine baseline, resensitizing our brains so that doing hard tasks actually starts to feel rewarding instead of painful. Second, stop planning and start doing. And third, deliberately start with the absolute easiest tasks first. Your brain craves seeing progress. Knocking out simple, quick tasks builds rapid momentum and confidence, cleverly tricking your brain into flowing right into the harder, more meaningful work. If you're still feeling profoundly stuck after all that, it might be time for some serious, tough love. Try an angry session. Tap directly into your raw frustration about being stuck. Think about the people who doubt you or that highly critical inner voice constantly calling you lazy. Harness that intense negative energy and use it as rocket fuel to prove them all wrong. Use the genuine anger of feeling left behind to forcefully kickstart your engine, burn down your excuses, and finally launch yourself forward. Ultimately, the choice is entirely yours. You can comfortably continue waiting for motivation to magically appear, which, spoiler alert, it won't, or you can actively use this toolkit. Put strict boundaries on your anxiety, deeply realize you are not your thoughts, ground your physical body, and start aggressively taking the small, immediate actions that build the life you actually deserve. So, what's the very first step you're going to take the exact moment this explainer ends? Remember, every single time you choose action over rumination, you are literally rewiring your brain for a fundamentally better future.